Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, and today I want to talk about Sabretooth and Wolverine. But first, never accuse me of not listening because I took your feedback from the latest meta snapshot video. I do admit I did overlook a few characters. I did downplay certain characters, and I did overestimate or value certain characters. I don't know exactly why I did that. I'm going to blame it on the fact that it was like 2 a.m. for me and I wasn't feeling particularly well that night. But I've hotfixed. I've released an emergency patch. So the game-breaking mechanic that was in there, the glitch, the bug that was letting you teleport through the walls is now fixed. And the new meta snapshot reads as follows. I'm not going to go into it, but you can check out all of the changes that I've made, and I've reflected more accurately the strongest characters in the game and what they can do with the absolute strongest builds. So if there's any other type of list that you thought this was, it's not. It's the strongest characters with the absolute strongest builds. Thank you guys for that, and without further ado, let's now dive into, and yes, I did include Wolverine. And I did also get rid of Magneto. Let's dive into Wolverine and Magneto. And I kind of wanted to touch on the snapshot video just briefly because there's so much feedback, and also because it does relate in part to the two characters that I want to cover in today's video. So today's video, we're going to be covering Wolverine's third skill, his new third skill, Counter Slash, which I initially hated. I still don't like it very much, but I'm going to show you the absolute and the optimal way, the absolute best way to get use out of it in PvE. In PvP, it's pretty easy. You memorize which of the enemy's skills are not iframes, like Deadpool's second skill, sort of, and Deadpool's third skill, and sort of Deadpool's fifth skill, and then you cast this skill before they cast that skill, and then you profit. We're also going to be checking out, for PvE specifically, Sabretooth. Now, Sabretooth is a bit more complicated. The way that his 4-star passive, his healing factor passive, the way that it reads is that it gives him a 5% recovery when he's below 99%, and then he also has, just whenever, no matter what HP he's at, a minus 7% all defense that stacks up to minus 55% when he attacks with a 50% chance. That's not the case. For whatever reason, they tied his all defense down to his healing factor. So in order to apply the all defense down, you have to be below 99%. So Sabretooth and Wolverine are what I would like to call characters that you have to take damage with and you have to get hit with in order to excel. Now, this is not so dissimilar. It's pretty similar to characters who have accumulation, like Cable with his new uniform, Ant-Man, Juggernaut, any kind of character that has this sort of text. Angel, Sharon Rogers, Captain America with his tier 3 skill. There's quite a lot of characters, but it's just a little bit different because for Sabretooth, it's not just getting hit, because there's nothing that you're accumulating. You actually have to take damage specifically, and in Wolverine's case, you actually kind of have to take damage too in order for it to trigger the effect of Counter Slash. So it's not quite the same, and you do need to be a little bit more careful because you don't have the immunity. All of those accumulation skills tend to have immunity. There's a few that don't, but the vast majority of them do, whereas these do not, and so they're a lot more dangerous to use. But I wanted to cover them both, partly because I initially misinterpreted Sabretooth's fourth star, his passive, and also because I can show you kind of a trick or a dirty way or kind of a little sneaky way to get around that requirement for both of these characters. And I've talked about it before in Wolverine videos if you've paid attention, specifically in World Boss Ultimate, which is the primary place where you're going to find that this strategy works well, is using the boss special skills. And you're basically going to intentionally choose a stage that has toxic meteorite, and my camera is blocking it, so I'm going to show you down here. This is the one that you want. This is going to penetrate your immunity. It's going to penetrate your iframes. Once you stand in it once, you'll start to take poison damage, and that will be a very easy way for Sabretooth to trigger his healing and to trigger his all defense down. And then for Wolverine, if you time his third skill properly, you will be able to trigger his all defense or his third skill Counter Slash. So we're going to just jump into a really quick match here on stage 50. I'm not going to bring along strikers because I don't want to confuse the arena with different effects and different buffs and debuffs. We're just going to take a simple team in and we're going to show off how this works. So in Wolverine's case, case, it's a little bit trickier because the puddle has to be already on the ground. If it's landing on you and you haven't made that distinction yet, then you're going to you're going to miss it. You're going to miss your window. So it's actually something that you do need to have a bit of patience for. There is the possibility that you can trigger his third skill buff when the enemy's attacking, but otherwise you wait until the buff is already there. And there we go. We landed the counter slash, and then we got the extra buff added on to his. We're actually, oh, see, I said we're gonna get one. I was about to say we're gonna get one more, but I was actually a little bit too slow to get it to trigger. You can definitely, in certain cases, like right there, I got the third skill to land off of Proxima's attack, but it's pretty uncommon. Sometimes I find that it doesn't trigger very often when they do ranged attacks. There it did, but to be safe, you should get into the puddle, and there you go, you can trigger like that, and it's actually very consistent when you do that. And you might think that this is not very much damage, and it's not very much damage because of my PvP build on Wolverine. I've got a CTP of regeneration, and I'm not trying to trigger a proc or any sort of extra damage buff to stack on top of this third skill buff. However, if you did have, come on, right over here. There we go. If you did have a damage buff, if you did have like a CTP of Rage or even a CTP of Energy, that third skill plus sixth skill is actually going to do probably more than a bar each and every time. So it's harder to illustrate the total effectiveness. See, sometimes it just doesn't work. I dodged it there. That's why probably having low dodge on Wolverine for PvE is a good idea, especially if you want to take advantage of this skill. But with a pure PvE build, you will see the fruits of your labor. There, didn't trigger. And you will see the value in using that third skill strategically and sort of, every second rotation. You're not going to get it every single rotation because the puddles just don't drop that often, but every second rotation, it's going to drop here in just a second. I'll be able to, or not, I guess, I'll be able to, there we go, trigger the third skill, boom, and then trigger the sixth skill or the fifth skill to get some extra damage off. And really, it actually does ramp up Wolverine's damage quite a bit, and it was the difference between me being able to do like a stage 50 and not being able to do a stage 50 with this PvP build with a full lineup of strikers. He can actually complete a stage 50 with a CTP of regen if he has enough team buffs in terms of, these guys, and he also has that full striker list. Sabretooth, on the other hand, is a little bit harder, so we'll build up a similar team here. So we don't want him to get debuffed and stunned and stuff like that, but we do want to set him up with the best possible team. This is pretty good. So let's jump in. Now in Sabretooth's case, it's quite a bit harder because being below 99% will also trigger your HP heal, and so you're going to kind of bounce around, but until you take damage, you're not going to apply that all defense down buff. So you're going to want to rotate between his skills, of course, but then you're also going to want to set yourself up to where you can take damage like that, and then you're going to want to then counter with that ability. But in addition to that, you do want to stand in these puddles because once your immunity wears off, you'll be able, I actually didn't know that I thought it penetrated your immunity. Once your immunity wears off and you stand in it, you'll be able to get that extra damage. You just don't want to get one-shotted. So you may actually have to build Sabretooth a little bit more defensively than you initially thought. You may need to give him some HP Uru, or build up his team with someone like Wasp, who has all defense or has maximum HP, in order for him to be able to trigger that all defense down more consistently. It does make him a little bit harder to play, but he's still a very good character, and it's quite interesting, I think, that Netmarble actively tries to give us characters. I was trying not to take too much damage. I don't actually know how much damage he can take. It's interesting to see Netmarble trying to design characters who play in a way that encourages them to get hit in order to reach their maximum potential. Now, it's actually quite a bit worse to play Sabretooth on this particular stage with the all defense down trying to trigger when you have something like the Pentagram Trap, which is the Doctor Strange Time Freeze, because that can set you up. You take damage and then the freeze hits you, you're gonna die. I'm not there. Now it's triggering. That's so bizarre. I don't know why that one time it wasn't triggering, but now the poison cloud seems like it's penetrating the immunity, and it's allowing me to stack that all defense down. And he's actually able to do this not too fast. Again, we don't have any strikers, but I didn't bring along strikers because I didn't want their all defense down from Deadpool or Scarlet Witch or Invisible Woman to, you know, skew the numbers and kind of cause things to be a little bit less accurate. But actually, now that I think about it, Wasp is probably a bad choice because her debuff actually prevents you. That's what was happening. The debuff from Wasp was actually preventing the poison bubble from leaving the debuff, the poison debuff, which does damage. So actually having Wasp on the team is even worse for I was gonna call him Scarecrow, is even worse for Sabretooth than I thought. So we're actually gonna go with a different team entirely. We're gonna forego the debuff. The debuff lead is, or the debuff in general from Wasp is good when you have the Tornado stage, the Blade Twister stage, because Sabretooth actually gets hit by that a lot, and it basically puts him in a really vulnerable position because Sabretooth does not have that much defense. He's kind of like the all-offense version of Wolverine. But let's see now. Oh my god, so much damage. Let's see now if we can make this work a little bit more effectively. We're still going to trigger the third skill immunity, but now when we stand in here, we should take damage. We do have the poison debuff active, but let's see here. Yes, so the poison debuff is still working through the immunity, which is exactly what I thought it should be doing. It was the debuff that was confusing me, and so you probably don't want the debuff for Sabretooth, but you do want to set yourself up so that you can take damage. It's too bad that it's not just accumulated damage that triggers it, that it has to be damage, that was actually quite nice, that it has to be damage dealt off your max HP, because it does make it quite a bit harder to you know, have him survive, especially when you're going up to higher stages. So Sabretooth might have like a soft cap on his maximum World Boss Ultimate stage, because, you know, once you get up into, let's say, the 70s or 80s, possibly, he's not going to be able to tank a hit while still doing enough damage to clear the stage. But it does make it interesting where you're going to want to kind of step around and basically intentionally hit those, see, this is bad, intentionally hit those puddles so that you get that damage, so that you trigger your heal, so you can start triggering the all defense down. You can see the all defense down stacking. We're going to try to trigger it here. Oh, wow, that's a lot of damage. And you can see it stacking up there. We're quite low, but we want to maintain the heal. Maybe just getting hit once for a large amount of HP, and then dying right here. Oh. Okay, alright. This would probably be the riskiest move, but also possibly the most entertaining. And I don't know if this is actually going to help your you know, your Sabretooth clears. This might make it a lot more frustrating to play a Sabretooth, but you're going to be able to have that all defense down essentially active all the time, which does make Sabretooth hit quite hard. It just requires, I think, a few HP Uru or a bit of careful design and careful, you know, implementation when you're actually playing as Sabretooth to maybe avoid some of Proxima's attacks, but to actually purposely not avoid and get hit by, walk into some of her attacks and some of these puddles here to stack up some of this damage so that you can get that juicy, as long as you don't get guard broken, so you can get that juicy all defense down. And actually, I think if I play this perfectly, and I know this is kind of a boost, this is a bit of an exaggeration, but I think if I play this perfectly, Sabretooth might be able to clear this stage without strikers, because I'm almost halfway through. He's got 2 minutes left. I'm almost halfway through the stage, and he doesn't. Yeah, and that all defense down, coupled with the combo of well, there we go. Coupled with the combo of crit damage, the bonus crit damage does make him quite good. It's interesting that 2 characters in a row, Victorious and Sabretooth, the only 2 characters in the game that have the bonus crit, 30% chance to increase critical damage by 100% on critical attacks. Both of these characters also have all defense down on one of their skills that allows them to, you know, stack those. In her terms, it's Outbreak of War. It's not listed here, but there's an all defense down. And in his case, it allows you to stack massive damage when you can get both of those things firing at the same time. The all defense down from healing factor and the Claw Cut passive. So let me know what you guys think of that kind of character design for Wolverine and Sabretooth. I personally really like it. I would like to see it implemented in other ways as well, perhaps skills that intentionally force you to take damage, like if you like a skill that just takes away your HP, sort of like Victorious, where she reduces her HP to 50% and it gives her a 50% HP shield, but then one that would trigger some sort of buff or some sort of aura that you can then take advantage of to do more damage, or it triggers a debuff that applies to all of your skills that will help you do more damage in the long run, like Sabretooth's all defense down. Hit me up in the comments down below. Let me know what you think of that, and let me know what you think of the hot fixed tier snapshot, meta snapshot, not tier list. Subscribe if you enjoyed the content and you want to support me, and of course, if you like what you see, I hope to see you again tomorrow. Take care.